Well, good morning, and welcome to B Cube Sunday Morning. I'm Bob Brown. I own B Cube Press, and of course, that's a laughable joke. If it wasn't for people like Karen and Phil that you see here, there would be no B Cube Press. Uh, and just a reminder that we are working to get released by within the month a book that Karen has did the cover art for, and that is Madam President. And or she designed the cover art. She stole, not stole. I don't know how it worked out, but I'll let you just that. But you did all of the work. Uh, I just write the checks. So we got that coming out inside of a month, and I have brought on board Rick Gualtieri, author of Bill the Vampire and many, many others, to leave him to the tender mercies of Brenda Clough, Karen Anderson, and Irene Radford. So, Rick, you have fun.
I intend to.
So I understand that you're going to start off by reading from your new book. Is this a work in progress or one that is already published?
No, it's actually already out there. In fact, I got a copy back here, which I probably should have grabbed ahead of time, but I really stink at prep. So the book is called Boer War, and yes, that is 100% a play off of the actual historical event, but it has nothing to do with that. Instead, no, this is about killer pigs.
Does
very good.
Does this bring in characters from your Bill Ryder the Vampire series, or is this whole new territory?
This is a different world. So I typically write in two universes. So Tome of Bill, Bill of the Dead, False Icons, and a new series that I'm working on called Mike the Werewolf. Those all take place in one universe. My Crypto Hunter books, which are like Bigfoot hunters and such, The Girl Who Bunches Werewolves, those take place in a different universe, and Boer War takes place in that universe. In fact, the Crypto Hunter guys make a cameo in it.
Tell us before you do your reading. Tell us a little bit about the crypto hunting universe.
Okay, so
I mean, the vampires are in Brooklyn, right? Where are the cryptos?
Well, Bill is in Brooklyn. Vampires technically are all over the world. Crypto Hunters takes place wherever there is a threat to mankind. So pretty much it is about this group of government agents who masquerade as a low budget reality show, similar to like Mountain Monsters or such. They go and investigate cryptids. Of course, they never find anything, but they're sent in when there actually is a threat. Where, so for example, in Bigfoot Hunters, as you find out, a clan of Sasquatches have been infected with rabies, which is driving them murderously insane. And these guys have been called in to put a stop to that. So it's whereas my Bill series is primarily horror comedy with an emphasis on the comedy. Crypto Hunters is a horror series. So
okay.
Typically people who like move from Bill to there, usually their first question is, where are the jokes? And it's like, there are no jokes. There's just people getting their arms ripped off.
Wow.
So it's a change of tone for you. You're doing a different thing.
Oh yeah, I write across multiple different genres.
And your audience is cool with this, I'm going to assume. I'm looking at all the books in the back there. They must be cool with it.
I mean, sometimes, sorry, there's going to be occasional foot traffic here. I used to have an office here, but we recently gave it to my youngest son. So I moved down to like an office nook that's kind of in central traffic here. But I mean, for the most part, I mean, every once in a while, I'll get like a bad review of somebody who's like, well, why isn't this funny or why isn't this horrific? But I don't make a secret of the fact that I write in multiple genres, and I usually try to be like, okay, well, read the blurb. That'll tell you what the tone is.
And hopefully the cover, you can signal it, with a lot of different ways. And it's nice that people instinctively pick up everything you write with has your name on it, even if it's clearly about fluffy bunnies or something. There are pink rabbits on the cover. What more do you want? But if they're that
write a lot of
devoted to
kid-friendly
your
stuff.
stuff, you cannot complain.
Exactly. I mean, that chalks down to like first world problems.
Right.
If somebody was just like, well, hey, I really enjoyed. In fact, I think one of my favorite things is sometimes seeing little like arguments break out in like my reader group where like some people really like the Crypto Hunter series, whereas other people are really fans of Bill. And some of them got to argue which one is better or so, and I'll just be like, hey, it's okay to like them both.
Let them fight about it. These flame wars are good.
Let them fight.
Well, I have to
fight
admit,
about it.
Preparing for this, I just read Bill the Vampire, and I didn't know there was a serious side. So I'm going to be really curious to hear some of the Boer Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, some days I do wish I had that focus to just write, because I know some authors, they stick to one series, one tone, and maybe they have like 20 volumes out in that, and it tends to work out well for them. My brain is way too scattered. I have way too many interests. Some days I want to be funny. Some days I want to be dark. Some days I want to just write an action scene where where a werewolf is punching out like a vampire or so. So I kind of go where my mood takes me.
It's nice to have more than one bicycle,
I have done that.
It is. I don't know whether it's like good for you or bad for you, but it's nice. You're not stuck in one mode, and oh yeah, once more into the breach with sword combat or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I have read a number of authors who stuck to one thing, and you can tell the moment that they get bored with that world, but they've got contracts for 3 more books.
Yeah, so like one thing I do during the day is I'll usually work on multiple books on any given day, or like at least 2. And sometimes it's a nice brain refresher where I'll be writing comedy in the morning, and then I'll switch over and be like, okay, we got a group of campers who need to die horribly in the afternoon, and it's just a nice, it's like a palate cleanser, if you will.
Or like changing the TV channels. Enough of the basketball already. Let's go and watch a sitcom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Question.
and also,
No,
I was going to say, also, okay, I'll shut up.
How you got into boars?
I'm
not
okay.
your
So
usual cryptid.
So I love cryptids. I am a huge cryptid nerd. Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, all of those things. And technically speaking, the whole concept of a hogzilla is a cryptid. So that really is like, that it just fascinates me, the idea that now chances are most of them are not real, but it just the concept that there might possibly be like, hidden animals that are horrifically dangerous that we haven't discovered yet. I just love that idea. And in Boer War, it's not so much a cryptid so much as it is more of a monster of mankind's own making. But I like that too, because sometimes
like Godzilla.
Sometimes just throwing it out there that at the end of the day we're the real monsters, that's fun too.
And
I live
pigs
on Mount Hood. I have Sasquatch in my backyard.
And wild pigs are famously dangerous. That in Texas you can hunt them. It's legal to hunt them year round because they're so destructive of agriculture. And I think there's a hunting season in France, but they really need to keep them down, because otherwise, agriculture becomes impossible. They're really destructive, strong, clever animals.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, as far as monsters go, we can all envision pigs. So it was really just taking them, making them a bit bigger, making them extra aggressive, because these things need a lot of calories to keep going. And
tusks, lots of tusks.
Yeah, exactly. Which more than one person gets gored to death with in the book.
Absolutely, I would not miss it.
And but I also but like because of modern technology and like and such, I purposely set this story in the 70s so that people didn't have cell phones, all of that stuff. And it allowed me to play it up a little bit, like put a little bit more of a campy spin to it because it's the 70s and you can't 100% take that entirely seriously. But
I have a solution. I have a solution to the wild boar problem. Our local Mexican restaurant, their hottest item on the menu is wild boar tacos, where they slow roast the boar.
Well, that is the final solution, is to get the meanest animal on the planet interested in eating them. We could eat them into oblivion if we just worked at it hard enough.
But see, here's the thing: these boars are not good to eat because the government experiment that created them.
Well,
It was basically, and I mean, you learn this in the first few pages of the book, so it's not really a spoiler, but pumping them full of all sorts of vitamins and other things to to increase their size. It turns out to be a failed experiment because they made these animals larger. They were supposed to be a food source, but ultimately they made them taste terrible. And that's why it's a failed experiment. Yeah.
I bet you a good red wine marinade would fix that.
But something, I used to have a boss once, and every Christmas she would give out this disgusting red wine to her team, and everybody hated it except I'm not a wine drinker. I would use that to make gravy, and it was a terrible red wine, but it made some really good gravy.
A marinade, that's what you do with bad meat. You marinate it in something to not only extract the bad, but to lay over a layer of decent flavor on top of the boring. And we could talk if you really wanted to get going on this. There's a lot of things you can do. But maybe
I can see the brain spinning.
I'm a good cook, and it could be done, but probably you don't want to get into that bit. Maybe that's not a good thing to go into. Is that a direction you want to pursue? Maybe not.
I love that idea of let's take your terrible tasting boars and figure out how we can make them delicious.
Red wine, slow roast for 20 hours in one of those big drum barbecue things, hickory and mesquite. And then after it completely falls apart, what sauce are we going to put on it, Phil? Dijon mustard with horseradish mixed in. You could do a lot of good stuff. We could discuss. I'm on Facebook. Email me.
Or yeah.
Is he going to read? Let's have him read.
I want to talk about your marketing choices, because at the moment, at least your ebooks are really only available for the Kindle at the moment. And this was a deliberate marketing choice for you, and I'm wondering why.
Okay, so I started off wide, pushing to all the major stores, and a couple of years back, I pulled back to Kindle Unlimited to give it a try. It worked out pretty well for me. Last year, not a year and a half ago, I decided to go wide again. Pushed it out. Was doing okay in a couple of the stores, but one thing that it's good and bad. It's the good is I really do want my books to be available to anybody who wants them. The bad is that not all of the ebook stores are created equal. Kobo, despite my best efforts, has always been essentially just crickets for me. I usually do okay on the Google Play Store, on the Apple Store. But looking at the numbers, it really came down to, okay, where am I making more? And it was okay, ultimately I'm making more on Kindle Unlimited than I am on those other places. And the other benefit is it allows me to focus my marketing. So when I put out marketing for ebooks, now my audio is wide, and I like that. But when I'm putting out advertising for ebooks, it allows me to just push people to the Kindle store, and it allows me to focus I guess stretch out my marketing dollars further. Do I like being exclusive like that? Not really. But I hate to say it, until one of the other ebook stores becomes a true competitor to Amazon,
That's always
But-
going to be where the action is.
Yeah, right
Yeah.
now Amazon's a 600-pound gorilla in the room.
Mm-hmm. How do you manage your ebook distribution? Do you have do you run that through the Amazon Audible thing, or do you have some other separate way to do this?
For the audiobooks?
Mhm.
Okay, so my audio is I have three branches of audio right now. So I have audio that is exclusive to Audible via ACX. So that's on Audible, iTunes, and Amazon.
Mhm.
I have wide audio, which is on those three, but it's also distributed to places like Spotify, other places like Google Audio, all of that, and that's through Find Away Books. And then I have a third branch, which is my High Moon series and my High Moon series, False Icons and Crypto Hunters. Those are all produced by Tantor, and those go to wherever Tantor pushes them.
So they take care of the hiring it done and having somebody read aloud into a microphone. But when you're not running through Tantor, do you hire an ebook person to do the reading?
Yes. So in that case, I'm auditioning. I'm listening to the audio to that. I'm trying to find the right voice, which kind of fits the story in my head. And then at the end of it, it's doing the thing that I hate most, which is proofing the audio for errors and stuff like that. And it's but that's probably what I like most about working with Tantor is they do that part.
It is a lot of work.
Oh, it is a lot of work, but I mean, here's the thing: we're small business owners. This is like and publishing is a very competitive industry. Nobody ever said it was going to be easy. We have to wear a lot of hats.
How do you do your covers?
So with the exception of a few of the freebies that are on my mailing list, all of my covers I hire out. I'm good enough with Photoshop to be dangerous, but I am not even close to professional level. So,
and really, cover design is a whole separate thing. To have a really good image is one thing, but your legibility, kerning, thumbnails.
Yeah,
it's a different. It's a very, very technical thing.
Yeah, I mean, cover artists, they're subject matter experts. So in order to put my best foot forward, I want to hire somebody who can take what I see in my head and translate it into an image, or more importantly, getting back to the subject matter expert thing, can tell me your idea is stupid. Let's try this instead.
Yes,
good idea.
Yes,
cover design
You're
has
paying
changed.
A pro for their input.
Yeah,
and cover design
and not a
has
lot
changed
will do.
enormously.
Yeah, and not a lot will do that.
Yeah, sometimes they'll just do whatever you want something stupid. Pay me the money and I'll do something stupid for you.
Yeah. Like the person who did all my Tome of Bill covers, her name is Mallory Rock. She's from Rock Solid Book Design. And one of the things that I've always appreciated about her is she has always never been shy about coming back and telling me your idea is terrible and here's why.
Yeah, I've been very lucky with Maya Catherine Bonhoff as my cover designer. And my vision of my covers sometimes gets thrown in the trash can at first mention of the idea. And sometimes she takes my clumsy efforts and spiffs them up and makes them wonderful. So it depends on where your brain is and where the artist's brain is and the designer's brain is. Because a good designer is not necessarily a good artist.
Yeah,
absolutely. And writers very frequently know nothing about art. The God only knows. That you don't know anything really. It's just like you don't know anything about dentistry. Maybe you let drilling on teeth go to a guy who can do it.
Like
cover design has changed. Cover design has changed enormously because what used to look really good in the bookstore doesn't look good on Amazon at all. and you
The
you now have
thumbnail
to
is
go.
very, really important.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And when I first started, Daw Books was my publisher, and they insisted that the cover have a human being on it. That this is what drew the eye of the reader. And now they're going more and more mainstream.
Abstract.
Abstract. Yeah. Um, just more of a concept of the content rather than a person doing something.
Mm-hmm. And there's a look, there's a look to every era of covers. You can particularly see it like when they do hard-boiled detective novels. There's a look. And if you're reaching that market, you want to say, hard-boiled detective, look, he's wearing a hat, that kind of a thing. And it gets to where you're saying the cover is not actually supposed to represent what your book is about. It's a signal to the reader saying, it's like Peacock Tales, it's saying, I'm ready for you, you hot female peahen. Let's go and make wonderful baby peacocks.
Well, I find the trick is you want to be familiar enough so people know what it is, but you want to stand out enough. So one thing I did back with, for example, Bigfoot Hunters, is a lot of the Bigfoot books that are on Amazon.
Hold it up.
They're very well. I was gonna get to that. They're very big on like the muddy browns and stuff. And I was like, I want Bigfoot imagery, but I want a color that pops. And so that's like, this is what we wound up with. More like more red. I mean, looks like the forest is on fire, and that definitely plays into the book. Spoilers. But that, like, I've always loved that cover because, when you look at Bigfoot horror on Amazon, once again, it's a lot of muddy browns because, well, dark forest, ape and stuff. And I was like, I want people to get the sense of Sasquatch, but I also want the colors to pop a little bit. And it's proven to be a pretty successful cover for me.
I'd like to see a Sasquatch book where the fur is mottled green.
For moss.
Right. Well, I live in an evergreen forest. And if these guys are hiding, yes, there are hints of brown in the underbrush, but a feathery fur with green tips would look just like any other Doug fur that's out there. I'd like to see that show. I know I may have to do another Sasquatch book.
And that's the sort of thing that would be very regional, because if you were not in a evergreen forest in the Pacific Northwest, the foliage would be different. And you'd presume that Darwinian forces would force all those greenish Sasquatch to become, I don't know, the color of aspen leaves or whatever they are, where their habitat is.
Well, the Yeti is white, blends into the snowfield of the Himalayas.
Actually, I don't think the Yeti is supposed to be. I think it's just white in like some bad movies. But I mean, if you look at like cryptid photos of the Yeti, it's brown or black.
Yeah.
Rick lives in New Jersey. There are no plants.
But
I could see that New Jersey cryptid, the color of dumpsters. You think they call them Jersey barriers for nothing? No.
No. They'd be blueberries. They'd be the color of blueberries.
Is that what they eat? It comes through in your. See, that's the other idea. Is of course what they're eating makes a difference.
Yeah.
Although if what you ate made a difference, people would have a very different look, and so this doesn't.
Yeah.
New Jersey actually has lots of woods. It has the pine barrens, where where actually famous books have been written about the ecology of the pine barrens. They would have lots of trees to hide in.
In fact, the second book in the Crypto Hunter series is called Devil Hunters, and is specifically about the Jersey Devil.
Oh, yay!
Yeah. Or they could be like the ermine, which is brown in summer and white in winter, which is why you hunt ermine in the winter.
Because that's when you get that pretty white fur for the edges of your royal bird.
Yeah. So anyway.
So I have to ask Rick, where do the boars live?
Okay, so Boer War takes place. It's kind of I purposely keep it kind of vague, but it's heavily implied that it takes place in Tennessee.
Okay.
Yeah. Why Tennessee?
I was looking for some place rural, like a pretty like substantial feral hog population.
Mhm.
And it wasn't even so much a conscious choice. It's just like the way the characters and like the settings worked out. It just felt like a good place to to set the story.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But I mean, it takes place in the fictional town of Cooper's Bluff, uh, which is a rural town. I think they said maybe about 3 hours away from Nashville or so.
Mm-hmm.
They,
Did you go out there to research?
I have been out there.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, since the book takes place in the 70s, um, a lot of that has changed. So as a result, I was able to take kind of liberties, but as a result, also it was kind of like, like with regards to going out and like doing a field trip for research, it was like, okay, it's 2024, not 1970s. What are you really going to be driving out there to look for?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah, I'm currently updating some of my urban fantasies. The rights were reverted to me, and they were written 20 years or so ago, and I can't put them out with flip phones. I can't put them out without the teenagers resorting to the internet every 3 minutes. So, it's a challenge to
Well,
keep things current.
that's become kind of a running joke in my Bill books, in Tome of Bill of Vampire, is
Mhm.
that every book he somehow finds a way where his like cell phone just gets crushed, where he's like it'd be really nice if I could just call my friends right now, but he like pulls out of his pockets, it's like already been crushed into like broken plastic.
Well, the cell phones, got so many plots that you have to do that the way Scully and Mulder are always in an area where there's no cell phone
Oh
connectivity,
yeah.
Right.
because otherwise everything collapses instantly as you go onto the internet and say, "Oh, I should be using bleach for this," or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, so nobody in my book has like an OtterBox like Defender case on their phones.
right. They're always just carrying it naked in their back pocket.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
Rick,
Yeah.
do you want to do a sample, a reading for us so we can actually see what's going on with the boars?
Sure. So this is getting thrown through walls is hard on cell phones. In the comments, that's one thing. Yeah, Bill is constantly being thrown through something. Um, the funny thing is he wears glasses, so somehow his glasses tend to survive, but his cell phones just get utterly trashed.
And he never learns from this. He hasn't gotten a deal with, Otterbox or anything like this. He does not.
No, the thing he's learned from it is he usually just buys like a cheap burner phone, knowing it's going to be broken. All right, so I figure this is from the prologue of Boer War, which takes place about 20 years prior. And let's see here. It's in 1957. Is right after the I guess the groundskeeper of this military base has just gotten the bad news that things will be closing. Merle, actually, let me bring it to this screen so it doesn't look I'm looking away. Merle Hoskins let out a loud belch as he read the letter again. Then he crumpled it up in disgust and threw it into a wire wastebasket that sat next to his old beat-up desk in the basement closet that his superiors dared to call an office. He picked up the half-empty bottle of Jim Beam sitting upon it and took a long pull. The effers. Not only had they fired his ass, but they expected him to clean the goddamn place out before locking the doors for the last time. Sure, they hadn't exactly worded it that way, but as groundskeeper of the facility, and a civilian no less, that was more or less what it had come down to. The Army takes care of its own, he muttered. To hell with the rest of us. With the closing of the complex, he was left unemployed and with nowhere to go. Sure, there was his sister Bernice, but he'd sooner live on the street than accept any charity from that bitch and her stuck-up tightwad of a husband. Didn't even get a letter of merit from Major Asshole, he slurred, taking another generous belt of whiskey. Merle stiffed the air, then wrinkled his nose. It smelled like crap, just like always. Sadly, the one sense the liquor never seemed to dull with this was his sense of smell. He picked himself off the chair and with bottle in hand walked out the door and up the stairs. He still couldn't believe it. He'd gotten nothing out of the deal except his final paycheck, and now they expected him to kill the entire sounder before burning the bodies. Gonna be a hell of a barbecue, he said with a humorous laugh, opening the door leading outside. The holding pens were only a few dozen yards away, but he could already hear the occupants' eager snuffling as he approached. He stepped to the fence and leaned over, watching the creatures mill about with their typical aimless stupidity. No, that wasn't right. Hadn't one of those useless scientists always been blabbing on about how smart the damn things were? Hell, he'd even claimed they could outsmart a dog most days of the week. Not smart enough to stay off a sandwich platter, he muttered, utterly picking the seat of his pants. That was, of course, complete BS, not to mention the entire reason the project would be shut down in the first place. There was no doubt they'd gotten the size part right. Merle didn't know the specifics. Hell, despite his high and mighty title of facilities supervisor, he was little more than a glorified garbage man. But whatever was in those injections the government scientists had been pumping into these swine had done its job. The damn things were twice the size of any pig he'd ever seen. Too bad they don't taste half as good. And that's probably good for now.
I can see what's going to happen.
Yep. You could just watch that train coming down the track, and
when they started
big
milling
thing.
around, I knew there was something going to happen.
Yep.
Okay, our estimable host has added a note to the chat. As an army of mutant hogs descends upon the unsuspecting townsfolk, a local farmer, his wife, and a failed pimp will find themselves the only ones standing in their way. Mm-hmm. If they can't stop the bloodthirsty beasts, they'll soon learn that not only does this bacon bite back, but all of humanity is now on the menu.
Yeah, the failed pimp, whose street name is Kool-Aid. He is by far my favorite character in this story. He basically came from Nashville. He was he's a young guy. He'd started out being a pimp. He didn't really know what he was doing, and he got driven out because he got a little too greedy. And now he's trying to quote unquote build up his stable in this farm town again. And as I said, I had a lot of fun with that character because he's one of those characters who's not bad, but he's kind of irredeemable.
Yeah,
and not very bright, It's,
yeah.
Somehow when you just from the marketing point of view, farm towns, I don't know, man. In the Bible Belt, buckle of Bible Belt. Well,
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a lot of one of the subplots is there's a lot of construction going on. There's an external developer who's in the town who's trying to develop the southern side of it where they have some of the marshlands.
Mm-hmm.
So his thoughts are, well, hey, there's construction crews are away from their family, they get horny, and they have money.
Yeah.
And all readers really want to see a contractor get killed.
I think that may be a universal impulse.
Yes.
Okay, going back through the comments on the side, Brenda posted the classic plot that is trashed by cell phones is Romeo and Juliet. Faking death, LOL, TTYL, XXOO,
Yeah, they gutted. You can gut a plot with cell phones, so I can see why you have to keep on destroying them. And in fact, to construct a story now it becomes more and more difficult. Drones, is it really easy to lose a dangerous boar if you can follow it with a drone?
But here's the thing: sometimes cell phones can get you out of. It goes both ways. You can use them to get yourself out of a plot hole because suddenly the character will be like, "I don't know what to do. I don't know what." Oh wait, I have the internet.
Google. Yeah, Google a map, pal.
I'm watching a lot of
Yeah.
anime
I mean, it's like,
in which the
you
cell
know,
phones actually drive the plot because of all the
Yeah.
amazing things you can do and fake on cell phones now. So
Yeah.
Yes.
the folks in Japan do a pretty good job in the anime of building the cell phone into the plot, and actually someone calling you while you're driving, saying he's really not after you, or somebody else is, or a mile ahead the police are looking for you, works pretty well if you can keep track of it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
it's like Star Trek. How many episodes could not exist without a transporter malfunction?
Yeah. Well, there as long as our devices are temperamental, you always have an out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in one of my more recent books, in the Bill of the Dead is the sequel series, Tome of Bill.
Mhm.
There's this ancient library of magic that's hidden away, that's like super secret, except the person in charge of it has been trying to modernize it and put it online.
Oh,
The
great.
main character, Bill, he's a programmer. So
Mhm.
and he realizes that the security around this thing, where like the magic people are really good with magic, but they suck with technology. And he realizes this, and he essentially hacks his way in, which just causes all sorts of like problems. And he's like, hey, look at this! I have the like most dangerous tome of magic available via a wiki.
It's on PDF.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm sure their passwords are utterly pathetic. You're an ancient wizard who was born in 700 AD, and your idea of a password is something like, I don't know,
1,
abracadabra.
2, 3,
Oh yeah,
4.
that's what
Oh,
at one
1, 2,
point.
3, 4. That would be very good.
Yeah, at one point he's driving with a friend, and the friend's driving. He's on his like laptop, and and they're like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I'm just running a basic like password cracker here." Oh, I'm in.
Yeah. Or, but then again, most of the wizards in 700 AD are speaking dialects of languages that are basically dead.
So a nice Latin term, medieval Latin term, and you're in like Flynn. No one will guess it. Even
Mhm.
the crypto, the things that automatically shuffle it through, they're not looking for Latin.
Yeah.
Latin's easy. Um, in my High Moon series, most of the witches and like warlocks and stuff, they are speaking Gaelic, and that's a nightmare.
Mhm.
Like some days I look at that and I'm like, you should have just gone with Latin, Rick. Should have just gone with Latin.
Mhm.
Yeah. I sometimes wonder if the Welsh didn't start adding double letters just to confuse the translators.
Extra vowels.
Yeah.
So Rick, I have to ask you a V cubed question. In all of these cultures that you're writing about and historical stuff, do you get into political issues much?
So so I write purely to entertain. So I'm usually not trying to push push anything like that. Occasionally, I mean, ultimately the characters have their own beliefs and such. So those do come out. But is it ever like really an overarching theme in most of my books?
No,
Not
I'm
too
looking
often.
I'm looking more like, do you have politicians as characters, mayors and dukes and
Oh,
kings and generals?
Yes, and,
in,
and
in fact,
local developers, who have the city council in their pockets, I hope and trust.
definitely. In fact, one of the main bad guys of Devil Hunters, which takes place in New Jersey, is the governor of New Jersey.
Good.
And it's he's not too heavily disguised, but you can see one of our former governors pretty well in him. So yeah, occasionally that, because also, let's be honest, I mean, especially if you're writing horror, politicians tend to be easy targets.
You always need a good victim, and corrupt politicians, they're crying out to be barbecued. I don't, who can debate it?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, sometimes bad things happen to non-corrupt politicians.
Oh, well, it comes with the territory.
Yeah, I don't play favorites in my books. If I have more than once reached a point where I didn't intend to kill a character, but I wrote a scene in a way where I was like, there's no real conceivable way for this person to walk out of here without me completely changing it. And as a result, that character's no more.
Yep.
Sometimes that
So
happens.
you've probably noticed that food is a big theme with us. Have you done any chefs or cooks or anything that takes place in a tavern or a diner?
All those contractors have to eat.
Mhm.
Actually, yeah, I mean, yeah, there is. I mean, there's a pretty significant scene in the book, the title, the Girl Who Punches Werewolves, that takes place in a diner where she's just trying to enjoy her breakfast, and suddenly the owner is locking the door, and like people are turning into werewolves, and she's just like, I just wanted breakfast.
Yeah. Small towns tend to have one diner or one bar where
Waffle
the
House.
locals hang out, and anybody who isn't local kind of gets the cold shoulder and no service. Been there, live it. You know. So have you done that kind of thing?
To a lesser degree, like I've had those places appear. In regards to like my series or my ongoing series, not really. Like there's not like necessarily a local hangout that they go to. Usually they wind up back at somebody's house or their apartment or so. So they do appear, but it's more like one-offs and such.
Okay. Question from Bob in the private chat: how much has D&D influenced your writing?
All right, so I'll say this. Not all of them, but I'd say about 80% of the times in Bill the Vampire and that whole series, where Bill recounts like, something like that happened to one of his characters,
Mm-hmm.
that's usually a real story from something that happened to one of my characters.
So your work is gaming related and driven. I'm always interested to hear how writers who do that.
I mean, I mean, just being a gamer, I think it teaches you about story structure.
And
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
and what has to happen. How long have you been involved with D&D?
Oh God, since probably before high school.
That is a long time.
Way too long.
Mm-hmm.
What
and
characters do you play?
Go ahead.
What was that, Karen?
I try to mix it up, because I get bored. I mean, I don't necessarily have a character class that I like as much as I like getting into the role playing aspect of it. Like I've like some of my friends, they're real power gamers, so they're looking to just optimize like whatever character they're playing. I'm more interested in building a personality because that's where I'm having more of my fun with. But I mean, my most recent, so I'm on a podcast called Authors and Dragons. We're starting a new game actually today. And so the character I'm playing there is an Eldritch Knight, which is a form of fighter. I probably tend to favor fighter classes more than the others, only because like wizard classes can get really in depth and complicated. And since I'm playing mostly a personality, I don't want like 50 pages of character sheet to like weigh me down. And fighters tend to like be a little more simple in that regards.
And do you have a group that you always play with, or do you have several other groups that you wander around among?
No, I mean, as I said, I've this podcast group that I'm on. We've been playing for about 7 years, and then I have like what I call my real life group. I took a break because I kind of burnt out on it last year, but we're starting up again next month. And I've been playing with those guys for about probably at least 20 years.
See, then that's great. You've really got a whole system going.
Mm-hmm. Bob just threw in the comment. The half orc fighter / cleric is his favorite. Okay, now back to you, Karen.
I wanted to ask. We have a number of folks who follow this podcast who are on the East Coast like you, and I wanted to find out what conventions they'd be likely to find you at.
Okay, so oddly enough, I don't do a lot of New Jersey conventions because they tend to be really expensive to do. So if you're going to find me at a convention, I like actually going down south a little bit and doing like things in like North Carolina, South Carolina. I'm not doing it this year, but like, one of my mainstays has usually been Con Carolinas.
That one I have been to, and and you go down as far down as Atlanta to Dragon Con?
I've done Dragon in the past.
Uh-huh.
It's a super overwhelming con with like the number of people there, but yeah, I have done that. But yeah, I favor more mid to like southern East Coast. What I'm trying to find in this area, and to limited success because I tend to find them like a week before they actually happen. I'm trying to find some of the cryptid fests that go on here so I can like, show up there and like, with like Bigfoot hunters and those others. But yeah, I'd love to do things like New Jersey Horror Fest or New Jersey Horror Con, but the tables there tend to be really pricey. And when you spend $500 for a table, you got to sell a lot of books to make that up.
And it's a lot of work to man a table at a convention because essentially that locks your whole convention up. You have to be there.
Yeah.
It's not the table is not managing itself.
Exactly. I mean, don't get me wrong. It is the best thing in the world to be able to like, to be able to meet people, talk to people, get a conversation going. It's just that sometimes you have to put the practicalities in there, and the practicalities are that I can only do so many conventions because driving down to North Carolina is like a 9-hour drive. Then I got to get a hotel room. So it's like a $500 weekend for me that I'm probably not going to make back because again, you have to sell a lot of books to do that.
Question.
I don't know if you've ever been to PhilCon, which I believe it used to be before the virus in Cherry Hill, New Jersey.
Yes.
I don't know where it is now.
Yeah, in fact,
that's really close.
It's really close. There's not a lot of foot traffic there, though.
It has had its ups and its downs, and Virus did a number on sort of every convention. That it did it on everybody. Have you ever been down to Richmond to RavenCon?
No, I haven't done that
Give
one.
it thought, because that's not so far. That's not anywhere near so far as North Carolina, and they seem to be a lively little bunch. Although with Virus, you never know.
Yeah, and then we've also been as part of the podcast. Sorry. We've been doing Authors and Dragons Con, and we usually get 150, 200 people there. But it's like, it's a cool thing because essentially we get to be big fish in a small pond.
Where is it? Where are you located?
It's been a floating con. So this past year we did it in Portland. The year before we were actually down in the same hotel that Con Carolinas is in down in Charlotte. So we bounced that around to try to put it somewhere close to all of our listeners.
Okay. When you say Portland, you mean Portland, Maine?
Oregon.
Oh, you were in Portland.
That's us.
Portland.
Yes. Next time, let us know when you come out here. Yeah, she's in. You're on the east side of Portland, and I'm in downtown.
Oh, cool.
Right. And Bob's only 200 miles east of us, and Karen's 150 miles north.
Yeah, well, and if you're willing to come to the West Coast, probably that WorldCon's in Seattle in 2025. So at that point, all of us sitting here are planning to drift on either up or down or over to it because it's close enough.
I will admit I am not a huge fan of flying. So
yeah, well,
so that's why I do kind of favor the East Coast things within like maybe a 12-hour drive.
Yep.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You mentioned the podcast where you're working with other folks. Are you in a writers group? Do you co-write or co-edit at all?
Okay, so I do co-write. So for example, the False Icon series that's co-written with R.E. Carr. But it's funny. About 2 years back, I started a local writers group here in New Jersey. So I actually run a local writers group. We meet twice a month. Anybody's welcome to join. We usually do it online. And the cool thing is, after 2 years, I've been of working with these guys. The group is getting ready to release their first anthology in about 2 weeks.
Really?
And it's going to be. Yeah, it's going to be the vast majority of these people their first time being published. So it's super exciting. We're we're gonna, all the proceeds are gonna go to a local pet charity. And yeah, we've
And you're the one who knows the score, how to get it done, get it formatted, what the cover should look like. You're the eminence grise, and they will learn from you, and then hopefully, move on to a springboard to more thrilling things even.
Yeah, we've been literally going through every step of the process. Like for example, last week, we were going through like writing the blurb, and we were like, I was showing them how to how to find keywords on Amazon. And not this week, but the week after, we're going to put it live, and I'm going to walk them through the steps of taking this book, putting it onto KDP. It's going to be a Kindle Unlimited thing, just for the sake of simplicity, and putting it live. And yeah, the hope is that eventually they'll branch out and just say, hey, I want to do something of my own.
I can do this myself.
Exactly.
Is the anthology all horror, or is it also science fiction and fantasy?
So the theme of the anthology is ghosts. So it's called Lost Souls, and it's not really, some of it is a little horror themed, but it's, as long as people revolved around that ghost theme, it kind of covers a whole bunch of stuff. One of our members, she's a really good poet, so she has some poems in it that are related to to that. A few of our people are long form writers, so there's a couple longer stories in there. So it really covers a broad spectrum. But it's been really awesome seeing these guys, because a few of the members, when they joined, this was literally their first experience writing anything. So it's been just wonderful watching some of them grow over the course of these 2 years.
Okay. Bob just notified us that he's coming back in 3 minutes. So we kind of, this has been so much fun. The time is just flying by, but we kind of need to wrap up any conversation in the next 3 minutes.
Well, it sounds like you're a real mentor to be able to do this and bring the anthology out. It sounds to me like you have maybe a gift for teaching.
Something, as I tell them, I'm essentially just the tour guide. I'm just the tour guide here, pointing them in directions. All the work has been theirs.
But someone has to know which way to go. Are we turning right here, or are we turning left? And
yes.
you know the way to turn.
That's kind of what Kevin Anderson does with his graduate student program. The anthologies they put out is he uses his expertise as a teacher, and the students do all the work, and he just only steps in when something seriously goes wrong.
Yeah, exactly. I want the majority of this to be theirs, but in certain cases, for example, like formatting the paperback version, I'm the only one who has a copy of Vellum, so it's during our meeting, it's up on the screen, it's a shared screen. I'm just walking through, okay, this is how you would format it in this program.
I mean, that's really valuable. There's not everybody can do that. Not everyone can access that kind of resource. In other words, you're helping them to not have to reinvent the wheel.
Yes. And hopefully not make a lot of the same stupid mistakes I made.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Rick, are you technically a small press?
So no, I wouldn't really call myself that. I mean, I do have a few other authors under Free Will Press, which is my company, but I'm not really a small press. I'm primarily here to do my own books.
You're an independent writer publisher.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is we see happening all over the place. As New York is New York is just very slow to keep up with the times.
And I mean, the reason for that is pretty simple. When I started this 13 years ago, it was literally just a bucket list item. I just wanted to I wanted to say I wrote a book, put it out there, maybe have a few people be like, you suck. In which case, my plan was to get back to my regularly scheduled life, and I'm happy to say it didn't go in that direction.
You just keep on
It's
pulling
wonderful.
on it and see how much is in there. Just keep on going.
Yeah, well, I think it's wonderful what you're doing and your approach to publishing as well as to writing and just being fun to talk to.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure you're going to be an inspiration to, hopeful writers everywhere.
Well, I mean, one thing I try to do is like for example, I have a decent sized presence on TikTok. And rather than, I mean, I do push my books every so often, but most of what I'm doing is being like, hey, writers, here's something stupid you should not do, or here's something you should, most of it is like writer advice, just because, at this point, like I said, 13 years, I haven't been in the game nearly as long as some people, but it's in terms of being an independent author, I'm like ancient.
Yeah. and you're now an old man in the field, and you have wisdom to offer, like Gandalf,
Or just crotchety, just get off my lawn.
Yeah, but it is astonishing how people need help, and you can point them at organizations. I guess I could put in Writer Beware into the link, but if you if there's someone like you to help them along, you can save people a lot of grief.
Yeah,
and that's my hope.
Yeah, like Brenda and I are both on in a group on Facebook. It's called Fiction Writers, but it's mostly newbies who are really writing their first book, editing. Maybe they've written 2 or 3, but not taken their writing seriously until this group comes along. And every once in a while, Brenda and I will throw in like, no, you do not pay a publisher. The publisher pays you.
Yep.
Or that thing where they said, I've written the first 2 sentences of what I feel will be a fantasy trilogy. Should I start a marketing plan now? And it's like, darling, at least please get a chapter or 2 done. You can't market the first 4 sentences with the best will in the world.
Or the ever popular, somebody left me a bad review. Should I respond?
No, never. No. Okay.
Ignore them and move on. Okay, Bobby's back.
Yes.
Hi, Rick. You're an inspiration.
Yes.
I knew I liked your books for a reason, and now I gotta say, impressive the things you're doing behind the scenes that people reading your books might not know about.
Yep.
And I'm just, it's very, very good to see. And so now I am actually rereading Bill, so I'm in book 2 now. And I just want to say thank you for doing such good work. And I know you've got to go. So I'm going to keep it short. We are coming back next week with, yes, Karen has said, Bill the Vampire is hysterical.
Oh, good.
If you like humor, embedded in your writing, read Rick Gualtieri. Just don't read The Cryptid Hunters unless if you're looking for humor. But read the Cryptid Hunters if you're looking for quality writing. Okay, it is all good. And to a man who will give up his office for his son, that is impressive. Now,
I was mostly just getting tired of listening to him argue with his brother.
It's all good.
When my son went off to college, I didn't lose a son. I gained an office.
Yes. I took over my daughter's bedroom the minute she left.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's like that when they notice that they're packing and you're measuring. It's,
yeah.
But anyway, thank you all for your coming on board today. Karen, Brenda, Irene, and Rick, you guys rocked. And I am going to say